All right, welcome everyone to the monthly copywriting clinic. So the clinic was started, oh my gosh, Agnieszka and I started this, it must be a couple of years ago now that we started it at this point. And so she and I just wanted to offer a way to, help people learn tips about copywriting. And then also, as you guys are starting to learn about these skills and autonomy, you're starting to craft your own offers, getting the chance to bring what you're working on and get real-time feedback on your projects. So that's kind of where this started. In the beginning, we were giving various lessons as we were going through. I still have, I have a great resource sheet that I could give you guys that's got like our best initial copywriting clinic videos in order. And it gives a really nice, foundation. We really started off in the beginning with just basics, what is copywriting? For those of you, don't really know yet, copywriting, is the writing of copy, not to be confused with copyright, R-I-G-H-T, but it's the writing of copy. And so, what is copy? Copy is all of the text and verbiage that you see on websites, advertisements, all the emails that you get in your inbox every day from businesses. That is all considered copy. Blog posts, articles, like all these kinds of things can be considered copywriting. So, what we do is try and find strategies to be able to speak to our target audience, to write to them in words that are going to resonate with them, speak to them in their own language. So it also, the copywriting process, we're not just sitting down and writing from a blank page. We're doing diligent research into our target audience and, finding out, we're scouring the internet, we're doing interviews and doing surveys and things like that to find out what are people talking about the industry that you're writing for. So, if I'm doing writing for even, for Autonomy Unlimited and doing, stuff for marketing, I'm doing research into businesses and finding out what are the challenges that they're facing in their marketing efforts. And then how can we, again, speak back to them in their own language. All these different audiences, can have different ways of talking to them. Right now, we've got one of our newest clients is they're called Trade Service Pro. And what they do is they have this wonderful software that works for people in trade industries. So, HVAC and arborists and plumbers, all these guys that are in the trade industry. And this service gives them a way to have in their hands, it's like an app that allows them to create invoices, all these different things that a trade person might need on the job. Really wonderful. But what we've had to do recently is then doing a whole bunch of research of how do you talk to someone in these trade industries? You're going to talk to them completely different than I'm talking to somebody who's like a high executive. The language is completely different. So just to kind of give an example of that, so we're doing all this kinds of research, finding out what are the common phrases, what are the challenges that they're coming across, what are the things that they want, and then we can try and find the gaps in that to see how can we speak to that in our marketing. So, again, copywriting is a big, broad thing. There's a whole other branch that Rawad is doing when it comes to SEO, which is something I'm not very skilled in. That is definitely not my area of expertise. But just to give just to speak to, there's many different branches of copywriting and marketing and areas that you can get into. So Copywriting Clinic, we'll do in a second, they'll kind of take a temperature check of the room. And, we don't have big, hard and fast rules here. I mean, similar to being in autonomy, our rules are, be excellent to each other. That's really the main primary rule that we have here. If you're, I also invite everyone on the call to offer feedback as we look through things, even if you're brand new. It's a good opportunity to flex your instincts and just throw things out there as you see them. If you feel like you see something, you want to ask a question or you want to throw out some feedback, please speak up and let's talk about it. You're also welcome to use the Zoom chat, especially when we start getting into things like actually looking at someone's writing. You're welcome to put things in the Zoom chat as well. Oftentimes, depending on how much stuff that we have to get to, sometimes I'll put a time limit on it, but we have a nice intimate group today. So we'll see how much we have going on. Seen a couple of more people pop in. So with that, I'd love to get a temperature check of the room. I know, Daphne, you and I have been chatting, and so I've got some lead magnets to take a peek at from you today. And Elise, hello. I was waiting to see your face in here. You said you've got a landing page for us to look at today?
Yes, I do. Just the text.
Great. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else attending today have something you want to make sure that we get to today?
I've got something, but I'm going to go low priority to anybody else. Otto, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say the same, that I also have something low priority. It's not my project, it's not a project at all, but it's just something interesting. I used ChatGPT to create marketing copy about freedom. So I just wanted to share that and just, see if that drives any discussion.
Great. Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
the ChatGPT things have been interesting, and I have to admit, I still find myself a little resistant to these new AI tools. What has helped me a little bit is I'm trying to change my mind frame around them. And how I saw, so Joanna Wiebe of Copy Hackers, really, really amazing copywriters out there, and they do really great trainings as well. I definitely highly recommend any of their courses. She put out an email right when ChatGPT and some of these others were really starting to explode. And she described it as these AI tools creating the shitty first draft. That's how she put it. And so it still needs a human element to come in, bring in voice of customer. Again, we talked about a little bit ago about speaking to people in their own language. So the stuff that these AI tools are going to spit out is, at least I can tell in a heartbeat when I'm reading something that has been generated by AI versus something that a real human, had a human touch involved. And I know this because Joshua Hale, who I work with very closely, loves to throw these things at me, and I can tell every single time. But what I love is, again, Joanna Wiebe, she said, it helps you to not have to start with a blank piece of paper. And it can help you create that crappy first draft that then you can go through, add voice of customer, add your research data into that, add the human element so that it does just sound like a human wrote it. So that's my little mini rant on AI tools.
Yeah, and I think after using, it's very important, like you said, that you know the target audience and their problem. Like, you need to know it all. Like, you cannot just ask ChatGPT like, hey, create me the perfect copy without any background information. So you need to provide all the information for it to then write about it. And yeah, at least in my case, it produced better copy than I could produce on my own. So, so I think it's a good starting point to hand some professional.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kara, do you think the AI could also add to the fact that some of the market research that you were talking about, knowing your audience portion of it, that it could take some of that already into account when it is drafting it, so that might have that?
I definitely think it could. I'll be honest, I haven't really spent a ton of time playing around with them too much, but I know that they're advancing. And I know that most of it is, involves you putting in the right kind of prompts. So as it learns from you and you keep giving it more information, and maybe if you give it more information about your target audience, it definitely will probably spit out things that are a lot closer to the end result that you need. So that, I definitely think it's very possible.
I just wanted to add, because I did the same thing, like the draft that I have is essentially the second draft. I took the AI and I started with the first draft, and then I completely changed it around to a large degree. But just to add to your point, the other day, I was doing an interview with a media relations client, and I did the AI thing and it created a one page, and then I read it to her, and she's like, "That's completely wrong. That ain't me at all."
Yep.
Every single thing about it was wrong. And I had provided like her website. So I don't know, it just completely screwed it up.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely takes, thought, and I think just trial and error on the part of us, the humans that are putting in the prompt and helping it learn learn from you. And yeah, like I said, I haven't, I'm still getting over some of my own resistance to, to the tools. And maybe it's because I'm kind of that like stuck in my ways. Like I've been doing this, I've been doing copywriting consistently since 2017. And I do feel a little stuck in my ways. And I'm also, to be honest with you guys, I'm also starting to move in another direction. Some of you guys know I've been moving a lot more into coaching and moving away from the marketing sphere as well. So maybe that's adding to my own personal resistance to learn some of these new tools, because I'm starting to exit the industry a little bit more. So not to use that as an excuse, but it's just kind of admitting that my knowledge and skill on using these tools is limited at this point. Working on it. Cool. All right. Well, why don't we look at, since I've already got them pulled up, Daphne, we're going to take a look at a couple of your lead magnets that you provided. And I know I asked you some questions kind of in our private chat, but just for everybody else here, would you let us know a little bit about why these were created, a little bit of your background?
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know which one you're selected. So which one are you going with?
I think the book is, because it's just so long.
Yeah.
I think it would be more practical for us to look at the other one on environments.
Okay. So when I, more than 10 years ago, started my own business, I was looking for more meaning to my career, my work. And I'm in the architecture field, and it's kind of removed from the general public. Not many people know what architects do, and it's not something that anybody engages an architect for anything. And so I was trying to also integrate permaculture and architecture. And I think at the time, it was super early in the permaculture days in terms of the audience really wasn't there. And most permaculturists or people interested in permaculture are like, well, I can do it myself. I don't need to hire anybody. And so in a way, I think I was kind of trying to, perhaps, I never really focused my target, I never really narrowed down what my target audience really was. I think I was trying to do too much for too many people. But so my goal for this autonomy is hey, is there anything that I did back then that I can focus and make like laser sharp focus on what the target audience is? Or can I even shift whatever skills I have into something else, perhaps? So this article about environments was my attempt to explain how and what I was trying to accomplish, which, admittedly, I may not even know myself fully, what I was trying to accomplish. But, architecture is about built environment. But when we talk about environments, there's a lot more to what that is. It's not just where the space you're in, it's also the state of mind you're in, the emotional state you're in, the spiritual state you're in, the way your body is in terms of how much toxicity it may have, because we're all getting poisoned slowly every day based on whatever products we use and the foods we eat. And so it was like really a broad spectrum as to how can I tell people how important and essential environments are in our world and how I can help them with all of them. So creating beautiful spaces, but also how to, clean up your, toxicity in your body and all that stuff. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Maybe
I'm going to make a comment for everybody else in the room, and then I'm going to have a question or two for you. First is around, what Daphne mentioned in the beginning is, not really knowing your target audience and maybe trying to speak to everyone. That's a really good thing for us to shine the light on here, because there, when you try, especially in the world of marketing and copywriting, if you're trying to speak to everyone, you end up speaking to no one. It's very, very important to hone in on who your target audience is. And you know what? If you have multiple audiences that have their differences, then maybe they'll need targeted marketing for each one. That's how you have really effective marketing. You know, if you can, when you have multiple audiences and you're doing something like audience research, if you can find that all the different audiences have a common challenge, common hopes, common dreams, then oftentimes you can create something that can speak to all of them. But the first thing is knowing who you're speaking to, knowing who your audience is. And it is something that's incredibly important and like one of the most fundamental things to note in copywriting when you're starting to create something is knowing who you're talking about. So for this, and then do you know, Daphne, did you have like a specific goal in mind with like what this particular lead magnet was going to deliver?
Well, I think this could be, now looking at it with the lens of everything that we've been learning now about from autonomy, I was thinking this could be the introductory, first something that maybe, I don't know, it's either on a landing page or something that then if they subscribe to the newsletter, then you can start dripping, expanding on each of the topics, like which soaps to use that are not toxic, how to clean your house with non-toxic materials, how to remove toxic environments from your spaces, or if you're doing a remodel, how to select products, flooring materials, things that are not toxic that they're going to release. So it's like at the time, I think I put it out on either, I may have sent it out as a email newsletter, but I'll take your advice as to how something like this can be best used, because obviously I have no clue and I didn't really get anywhere with it.
Sure. And at a glance, like even just starting with the title, we are our environments. When I see a title like that, I would almost think of it more as like a blog post or, something, even like something like you said, something to just, put out as value, maybe as something included in a follow-up sequence, or maybe this becomes some copy on a website. But when we're talking about specifically a lead magnet, as lead magnet is something that we're a free piece of value putting out to the world to capture leads. So, something you're putting out there in exchange for an email address. So when that's the case, we want to, especially in something like the headline and the title, we need something that's going to hook them in, that's going to really grab them and be really clear and enticing about what they're going to get out of this. So even when you were just giving, when you were talking, you were giving some examples of some other things that you could create, the how-tos, those are fantastic ideas for lead magnets. Something really clear, 5 ways to do X, 5, three strategies to accomplish, whatever, 3 reasons why, People gravitate to numbers. So it could be a really good strategy to put numbers in your lead magnet title. But that way, when someone is scrolling, whether it's on, Facebook or, something where they're going to come across the potential to get your lead magnet and they see the title, it's something that can grab them and hook them in. And they say, oh yeah, I want to learn that. I want to know how to do that. If they're just scrolling and, we know how, I use Facebook as an example because a lot of the marketing and lead generation I've done has been things like creating Facebook ads, finding ways, to where we can find the people and capture the leads. There's definitely other avenues, but I think I just use Facebook as my go-to example. But thinking about people scrolling and how much competition there is on these platforms, like you really need to find the titles and the headlines that are going to rope them in and really stop them from scrolling. And, ooh, yes, I want that. I'm happy to give you my email address so that I can get that. So that's, where the first thing that I went to as far as the title. Now, I've been talking a lot, and then if anybody out there wants to chime in or have questions or comments, you're also more than welcome to.
I'll just add a couple of things because it struck me that, you know, as far as figuring out who your target audience is, it might be something to think about, like the magazine that addresses your audience, or like, you know, what do you think would be so like I thought of Architectural Digest, and I did my AI research, and I found out that 42% of Architectural Digest audience is male and 58% is female, which I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting. And then the average age is 53, and the average income, hold on, drum roll please, for a architectural is $160,000. So like there's a couple things right there. Like if this is like, it would seem to me like this is your kind of audience. That's kind of some of the basic information that, you know, like if you're talking to somebody that's making $160,000, that primarily female, and, you know, understands kind of the terminology of architecture, you know, you're going to have a whole different bunch of words than, you know, you're talking to somebody that just, you know, bumping along on the street.
Sure. Yeah, definitely some good things to note. You know, and if you were to do some more audience research into that, then I'd go looking at like architecture forums, exploring places like Reddit, and, you know, Reddit threads related to architecture, and just finding where are the architects out there and what are they talking about. And that's when we're trying to capture, you know, so when I'm doing audience research, I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for patterns, things that come up over and over again, like the common challenges, common, you know, hopes, dreams, and wants, barriers, uncertainties, these kinds of things that come up. So I'm looking for patterns, because when things come up multiple times, we know, okay, that's something that we need to make sure we address somewhere in our marketing. Side note, audience research is a really great way to come up with lead magnet ideas as well. The other thing I'm looking for is interesting ways of saying things. So when we're doing this kinds of audience research, I'm literally copy and pasting exact vernacular of what people are saying in these forums or these comment threads, and then I'm pasting them into a spreadsheet, an organized spreadsheet, so I can kind of keep track of, you know, the positives, the negatives, between what audiences that they're into. So that later, when I start to actually write things, that's where I'm getting the voice of customer data from. I'm finding, again, those like interesting ways of saying things, unique ways of talking about a subject that is in the language that they're talking about. So
I have a quick question about that.
Sure.
When you do the audience research and you go through all these forums, like how much time, because of course there's a lot of content out there, and it's not like you have to be there for 4 months following, you know, threads. Like how much time do you actually dedicate to focus audience research so that you can glean, generally speaking, what the patterns are that are arising? Do you like focus, you know, okay, one morning, 4 hours, I will go through and collect all this information? Or how do you plan that out?
It depends. You know, so for example, in Autonomy Unlimited, when I'm tasking a copywriter with doing audience research, we usually budget for 10 hours. So just to kind of give an idea. However, sometimes that gets done in less time. It also depends how hard it is to find the people. Sometimes it's a little bit more challenging. You have to get really creative. Sometimes you have to go sign up for private forums, see if you can register on some of these places that aren't just readily accessible to anybody on the internet. Sometimes if I'm really struggling to find what I need, I'll create a survey, or I'll see if I can interview somebody, find someone in that industry that I can interview to get some direct insight into what's going on. So really, it depends. I've had times where it's taken me 2-3 hours just to find the thread that has some of the insight that I need. You know, and those are more frustrating times. Other times I'm done with audience research in a matter of 3 or 4 hours, because I've just found, you know, these gold mines of threads, and, you know, and I've been able to fill up my spreadsheet rather quickly. And then I can see, okay, I have what I need. I'm good to go. So it really depends. So that's where, I say again, with Autonomy Unlimited, we budget 10 hours. And there's been times where we've had to go over. There's been times where, the copywriters come back and like, I've struggled to, find the stuff that I need. I need to budget a few more hours. So it really just depends.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The other point I wanted to make was about demographics. So as much as, yes, demographics do play a part, as far as male, female, income, this or that. But what I'm looking at is if I have somebody that is making 20,000 a year and someone that's making, 80,000 a year, but they're both have the same challenges, that's all that matters to me. If they're dealing with the same issues, the same things, they're working in the same industry. I mean, hopefully they're not that much of an income gap in the same industry, but you know what I'm saying. What matters to me most is finding what the common challenges and pains and fears and those kinds of things are. So, before I move on, is there any more? I mean, we're still going to continue on this document a little bit more, but on this subject of audience research, is there any more questions or comments?
I'll just add another thing, and it's something that Rawad demonstrates in, kind of his, he's got a specialized copywriting, which is that SEO copywriting, but he does a kind of a AI version of, kind of scraping the relevant resources as far as, what websites and stuff cover those particular things. And then he compiles like a list of those things. So I've been doing some writing for him as of the past month or so. And, he just provides me with a list of, here's 10 sites that I can go to that I can, collect some of that information and get an idea of, how people are talking. Unfortunately, we're already seeing a lot of AI kind of generated thing where you're seeing like the same kind of, robotic language. And to me, that's where it gets fun, because, when you can take all this robotic language and come up with some, kind of human, funny stuff, it can be fun.
Would you also say that if you are identifying like too broad of a spectrum, maybe you can have subcategories? And would you keep it within the same like company or brand name, or would you start making different brands? If that makes sense.
Like categories of different like audiences?
Yeah. So for instance, if something, a topic like this is so broad that maybe, I could have the architecture focused audience and then have the general public audience. Would it be possible to keep it under the same kind of quote unquote brand, or would you start completely separating the 2 or 3 threads that might show up so that they don't get mixed?
It depends on like the topic that you're presenting, and if it's something, because thinking like an architect and a general public, they might have very different views, different ways of speaking. They might there's obviously different skill sets involved. So I mean, if you have something that you think could speak to both, then that's great. When you have very different audiences, though, you're going to have better luck by segmenting them, by speaking to them individually. Even if you make 2 versions of the same lead magnet, if there's like an entirely different language being spoken, in a sense, between the 2 audiences, like an architect might be more familiar with certain kinds of jargon in the industry, right? Whereas general population, they're going to need things, explained more to them. They're not going to understand a lot of that jargon.
Right. No, I'm not trying to target the architects. Like, I am the architect that I'm trying to get clients, but then there's the ones that might hire an architect, and then there's the general public that might never end up thinking of ever even hiring an architect. But then if you explain to that, like, all of them might need or benefit from knowing what the field does. And then maybe one day, if their circumstances change, they might actually feel like, oh, I might actually have the opportunity.
So what I would do in that case is when you're writing, focus on the people that are going to want to hire an architect and speak to them. And then if others in the general population have an interest, they want to read it, fantastic, that's great. But when you're writing, have your target audience in mind. So in that case, I would speak just right specifically to those people that would be looking to hire an architect. And then if you catch other fish in the pond, then that's a bonus.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just kind of taking a glance through here, we're not going to go through all of the verbiage in here, but just I'm going to do like a quick kind of scroll through so we can get a little bit of a feel of, you know, what we're seeing in here. And then I'm going to kind of put a couple of my first thoughts out here, and then I'll also invite others in here to check out. So just as like a general kind of formatting thing, think about like the structure when you're thinking about a lead magnet. Think about kind of breaking it down into sections. So you want to have a nice introduction that, you know, gives them like an introduction into what they're going to get out of reading this lead magnet. Then having kind of like when you're writing like an essay, right? So you have an introduction, you have your points that you're trying to hit, you know, maybe, you know, 3-5 points, whatever it might be. And then, you know, a conclusion, something to bring it all together, have your call to action, wrap it all up in a nice bow. So when you're going through in the middle, you want to format it that way. So having, you know, clear introduction, and then having what we call crossheads, so section headlines that are, you know, maybe a little bit bigger, bolded. They can stand out a little bit more. You might think about something like bullet points when applicable. The point is that while you want the people that download this to read every single word, not everybody's going to. So everything that we do, we want to tailor for skimmers. Pretty much all of copywriting, that can kind of be a blanket rule across the board. There's exceptions to every rule. You know, we learn what the rules are so we can break them properly. But as a general rule, you want to tailor things for skimmers. So then they can go through and they can see what's the section headline, and then they can go through and read. But some people, especially these days when people are just moving so fast, a lot of people are skimming for what they want. So
what about the image then? Something like, because I was trying to get my ideas out and create something graphic so I could wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
Would something like this be, you know, not enough, but I'm saying explaining what those points are, and then in this particular case it could be used, those headers could be used for the follow-up valuable further
absolutely. You know, and graphics in general, like I would say that's what probably one of the things that this entire thing is missing is more graphics. It gives the eyes a break. People just really like it, like to have something, again, for the eyes to gravitate towards, to just kind of get a break from the words, get a little bit more of like a visual stimulation in there, visual understanding of what you're offering. So, you know, you don't want to go too crazy, but I mean, if you had at least like 2 or 3, you know, graphics in this entire thing, that would really help to break some of it up. Okay. Then when we get down into here, where these get to be some large chunks of text. So that's another thing that you would want to do is break up some of these, at least, you know, in between, for, you know, first example, in between your paragraphs, add some white space so that it's not so scrunched together. And when you get these big paragraphs, find ways to break them up. Okay. It's not as vital in something like a lead magnet, and especially, you know, people will do things like ebooks and, you know, really long forms of written content as a lead magnet, to where, you know, this rule doesn't as much apply. But for example, email, you never, this is a big rule. When you're writing an email for someone, never put a big chunk of text in a marketing email. People tend to, I learned this from Sabri Subi, and I've just never found it to be untrue. Most people, when they see a big block of text, when they open up an email, their eyes immediately go blind to it. And they're not going to sit and read every word. But if you take that same paragraph, this is what's funny, you take that same paragraph and you break it up sentence by sentence and with white space in between going down, suddenly you're reading every line. Suddenly they're getting everything. It's a really odd thing. And I encourage everybody to observe yourself when you're reading certain marketing emails and notice the difference in yourself between reading big chunks of text versus when they're broken up with white space in between. And I will find myself reading every line, where if I see a big chunk, I'm like, oh, I don't have time for that. And it's the same stuff. It's the same word, but the way that
I think Patrick's emails are a good example of that.
perfect example. Yes. So that's the same thing. If he had, that same exact content, but grouped together in a big long paragraph, people would not read it the same way. You would not read every sentence in there. But the way he breaks it up, and of course he is, just very compelling writer, but you find yourself reading every line as you're going through. That's really funny. It's just a funny psychological thing that we do. So, yeah, I break some of this stuff up. But otherwise, overall, I think that there's definitely value in here that you could repurpose in some other form. So the value is there. It's just about how you're packaging it and how you're putting it together.
Great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Ooh, I love this. What can be done about it? That's a great section headline. Like when you, especially if you've done the work on like building up the points ahead of time and, acknowledging, using the section headlines, acknowledging the different problems or, pains, whatever it might be, the different points, and then getting down to like, all right, solution time. Here's what we can do about it. That's great. Great. And so even things like this, when you have like a big section, this could be an opportunity to do things like breaking things up into bullet points. When you have multiple points to do and like listing things out, people can gravitate to those a lot easier as well.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or questions or comments bubbling up for y'all in the background there? That's fine. Yeah, and so then I would say, all right, so you got like the, what can we do about it? And then it would lead into like how Daphne, how I can help you with with this, and then of course how to get in contact with me. But making a nice, clear call to action of I can help you solve these problems.
Okay.
My one comment is that I'm a person who likes to read, but for something that's trying to get across, here's a problem I can help you with types information, it's too much text. I feel more like I'm reading a treatise than something that's telling me, if you want this, I can give it to you this way, and here's the considerations in a very compact form.
And hi, Samantha. Good to see you.
Hi.
And I'm glad that you, honestly, I'm really glad you even commented on that, because I know it's like even you going through the copywriting course that, you're someone that's a little bit different than the normal person out there in a lot of ways. With just various things in marketing and how you respond to different forms of marketing. So I'm just happy to hear that you also agree with that point, even as someone who, like you said, really enjoys reading.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that thing that was said earlier about AI doing copy, most of the stuff I read trying to sell stuff is very robotic. It's like this long list of promises, and there's this long list of additional things you get if you go with me. And often all of that for multiple pages is there before they even give you a price or an action item. It's a horrible formula.
Yeah. And with all these AI tools exploding, we're going to keep seeing more and more and more of that. And I think it's interesting because I think we're in a time, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I think we're in a time right now where, these businesses, and especially like solopreneurs and stuff like that, are getting so excited about the tools that they think, oh, can do all my copywriting for me. They can do all the work for me. Great. But like you said, like you can tell when something has that robotic feel to it, when it's something that's, very clearly not been written by a human. And I think they're going to start to see fairly quickly how ineffective that is. And so I know that there's a lot of people in the copywriting, the profession, like myself. I mean, not necessarily myself, but have had nervousness about these tools are going to take my job away. But no, they really need a human element. It's very, very important. And so that's why I like the idea of these tools can create that crappy first draft. That's great. So you don't have to start with a blank page, but making sure to do your due diligence and insert your audience research, insert your voice of customer data, and add that human touch that it so desperately needs.
Well, I partially disagree. I mean,
Tell me.
because I read a lot, I read a lot of like articles that frankly, even ChatGPT 3 could have done a better job with less grammar errors. And I've seen some things that were well-tuned prompts for doing various types of copy by various standard ways of approaching copy that were actually quite clean and good. I was surprised. So I sort of think that sometimes letting the AI try it first will get you past that blank page. And yeah, you want to put your own goodness in it, but I don't think it's necessarily all that crappy either.
And I guess big part of it is the user putting the right kinds of prompts into it also.
Yeah.
I know that's a big aspect of it, is getting the AI to learn from you and putting the right things into it. That makes a big difference.
I have a question about that. So do you think that by getting the first draft, it might, okay, you get beyond the white page, but it might in a way influence and sidetrack the human creativity that you might otherwise put in? Because sometimes if we are exposed to something, then we might start like closing our way of thinking. Do you think there might be a threat of something like that happening? Because I know with design it can happen. You get exposed to a lot of stuff and then you're like, well, I'm not, I'm just thinking like everybody else. I'm not thinking outside the box.
Yeah. In my own career, I've some of the hardest problems that I've done well on and established reputation on were things where I hadn't gone out and done the research of what other people thought. I approached it fresh, and I didn't know enough of what was there to be scared, and I ended up doing something that was better in some cases. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's what I am observing a little bit with this kind of approach in the design field, because they're promoting it as, hey, this is the hack for creativity, but in a way it's almost like they're taking away the human creativity aspect, because effectively the AI can only output something from something that's already been put in as education, where the humans have the ability to create something that's not there, or it has not been pre-programmed in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, maybe that's, I don't know if that's the end all for me, but that could be a big reason why I have my own resistance. And like I said earlier, I kind of feel stuck in my ways of, the way that I approach writing copy and starting something, and why I've had my own resistance to the AI tools. And I think I have so many people around me that are using them and so excited about them that I'm trying to get excited also. But just still find myself resisting a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy resistance. You don't have to downplay it.
Well, I could add to that
Go
too.
ahead, Elise.
Oh, thanks. I feel like for me, sometimes when I'm like just stuck, I'll ask for copy, and then I'll kind of cherry pick like what I like from it rather than like being like, oh, this is my first draft. Because I don't know if you ever did this like back when you were writing essays where you'd write something and then you'd print it and then you'd rewrite the whole thing. So I don't really like having like all the text on the page. So I'll just like be like, oh, I like that idea. How can I rewrite that in my own words? Or like, oh yes, that's what I was trying to convey. Like, perfect. I'm gonna like add those bullet points. And it gives you more of a structure to work with. Like, I was thinking that, but I wasn't like knowing how to say it, or like maybe I was gonna miss that. And it gives me like good verbiage and good things to start with. But then of course you have to tailor it to your audience and to what you're trying to accomplish, but it can give you like little chunks of text.
Yeah, you know, Elise, you're actually, you know, you're making stuff bubble in my brain. I like how you said that because, you know, when I'm thinking about it now and the way that you put it like that, I do that in my own way without using AI. So when I'm writing a website for a client, you know, yet I'm not necessarily starting with a blank page. I've got audience research, but I'm also going and looking at other websites in the industry out there and just looking at things, seeing, you know, what might spark for me. So in a way, the way you're describing it, AI is kind of doing that process for you, making it a little bit quicker than how I would do it manually, of like just going out, browsing, finding different websites, and again, cherry picking and finding the things that I like that I might want to take inspiration from. AI is just kind of doing that heavy lifting for me.
Yeah, I think that's still relevant too, to like do that and see like what format you like and what's going to work for yourself or a client. Like, I love to use references of other people's sites and like formatting and stuff like that, and like what needs to be included. But sometimes like the specific idea I need, like for example, for the landing page, I created landing page lead magnet, whatever it might be. But I did like a ChatGPT thing, and then I just put it at the bottom to look at later or to like reference like certain parts. I didn't really include a lot of it, but like I did take a few sentences and rework them. So yeah, I totally agree with still doing like the research and looking at everything, but sometimes it can help to get some good little like paragraphs.
Absolutely. Really quick, you guys, I'm gonna put myself on mute for a second. So you guys don't know, I'm pregnant and I kind of have to use the restroom more than I can't wait 2 hours. So I'm gonna take a quick break. I will be right back. Feel free to continue this discussion. I'll be back in a moment.
Maybe
All right,
we can review Elisa's landing page next.
Yes.
Well, I'll just add, I'll add something here in regard to what you guys were saying. There's a strategic narrative consultant that I've been following here recently that's really, I think he's really good. But one of the things he points out is what he calls differentiation. And to me, I think this is really the piece of the puzzle that I think for our group, we can really do very well. And that is how do you disagree with your competitors? Because, you know, like a lot of the AI stuff it generated, you know, the copy that's out there, for the most part, they're saying like the standard ways of doing things, and being able to differentiate yourself, like saying, this is something that's the industry standard, but I disagree with it. And this is why I disagree with it. You know, like for me, for construction, I'll say the, you know, the project management triangle is pretty much an accepted standard in project management. I disagree with that. I think that's completely bullshit. And that's what makes me different, you know? And so that's, to me, when I'm looking through stuff, if I don't see that different, like what makes them different, I'm thinking, oh man, they've made a huge mistake.
I also wanted to chime into this conversation about AI and creativity because I'm like, kind of in a way that I'm also taking this, I cannot use this tool too much, or I kind of predict that it's gonna be a downfall of humanity because people are going to be relying on AI too much and they cannot think of themselves anymore. But on the other hand, I did have pretty amazing experience. Just yesterday and today, as one thing led to another, and I started to write a fiction book with ChatGPT. So before I cannot really write. It's very painful and slow, but this time I was able to just take like a director's seat, just tell it like write this, and then we kind of went paragraph to paragraph, and I was kind of unfolding this story from my mind, and it was coming to the paper in a nice form and no grammar errors. So that's one thing. So I felt like I was pretty creative last night, and I stayed until 3 a.m. and it's kind of a lot of distractions in my week because of ChatGPT.
That's awesome. I'm glad that it's helped things start flowing and like kind of release the floodgates for you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT is great for some things like, I want to do this project, give me an outline. And then like header by header, what are the subtopics of this section? And those sorts of things could really nudge you. And something I've found useful as a software person is I have to deal with many different types of software that I have to use in a whole project. And some of them I don't know well. And, I was spending like 3 days studying this one particular thing, how to configure Nginx, if any of you know what that is. But in any case, after 3 days, I couldn't figure out how to write this simple configuration that I was really pleased with. So I asked ChatGPT and it just did it. And I tried it and it sort of worked. It got some things not quite good enough, but for first passes, like it's been said at things, it could be a real lifesaver.
Yeah, like an unblocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Well, why don't we take a look at Elisa's landing page?
And what is the field you're in, Elise?
So I'm a web and funnel designer. So I am starting to actually trying to do some marketing. And this is essentially trying to get people to, it's a lead magnet really, and kind of a sales funnel. And essentially what this is going to be acting as is, my sales page for people learning about hosting a webinar funnel and sales funnels, and then getting them to work with me to create that for them. So essentially I am positioning myself as the expert in funnel building and free webinar like funnel creation, and going to help people create those.
Awesome.
So this is page 1 opt-in, and then after that it is going to be a thank you page with the actual free presentation that I give. I'm going to do like a mock presentation on this in June in Rewad's market things. So I'm going to be presenting what I have and then getting feedback and stuff. So if any of you want to come, I think we set the date for June 13th. And then after that, I'm going to refine it and record it and then put it in my second landing page.
Congratulations on stepping up on all this, Elise.
Yes, I know. It's a little bit scary because I do not love being in the limelight, but it's, yeah, or getting, I guess, like feedback. I don't like that, but it's necessary for growth.
Absolutely. And I know from experience that like writing marketing for yourself is like the hardest. I can write copy for my clients and other people all day long, but when it comes to myself, that's when I come across the biggest roadblocks.
It feels just like everything is cringy and I'm like, oh God.
So I want to get down into, the lead magnet content, but just looking at the opt-in as far as, this would kind of be the first touch, right? This is like the first thing that, these people are going to see that's going to try and entice them to get the lead magnet, right? So I see, the target audience, educators, entrepreneurs, and coaches. That's what I see. So my very first thought, so as someone who works in marketing, and I see language like, you want to level up your ethical marketing strategies. That makes sense to me, but is it going to speak directly to the people that aren't as familiar with marketing, aren't as familiar with doing this stuff, which is why they would want to hire you? And I guess if they thinking even more creatively about the end result, like, so if they got these ethical marketing strategies, got this stuff, then what would they have? What do they want? Are they saying to themselves at night, I really want to level up my ethical marketing strategy?
Probably not.
So it's language that speaks to us as
Yeah.
marketers, like that that definitely speaks to us. But as far as your target audience, thinking a little bit more of what are the challenges in this field that's keeping them up at night? What do they want?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that is maybe this, after the educators, entrepreneurs, coaches, that is really what they want,
Mm-hmm.
and that needs to get put higher.
Yeah, maybe this needs to be a little bit more like as far as the opening hook. I think that's where, you want to see how you can work this into the opening hook instead of this as your opener.
And this
How about-
large text header, educators, entrepreneurs, and coaches, why wouldn't that be at the top? It seems like it belongs at the top because it's immediately saying, if this is you,
Yeah.
here.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good point. Thought I heard somebody else speak up.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe the top line is something like, "Are you fed up with the typical marketing BS?"
Ooh, that's good. Mm-hmm. It's good.
Also, is the expression fingers in a lot of pots an expression, or did I make that up? Fingers in a lot of.
Yeah, that's an expression.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it in a lot of pies? I forgot.
Fingers in a lot of.
Yeah, pies.
Pie.
I think
Yeah,
pie.
it's like you're a kid and you're like, "Hey, I want to test that. Can I have a little bit?"
Is it actually pies? Fingers in a lot of pies. Oh, okay.
Along with maybe putting that larger text thing at the top, the second larger text thing might be right underneath it because it says, hey, you guys who are this, I want to share something with you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. And kind of continuing on, all right, you have a lot of great ideas that fill up your day-to-day life. Not to mention seeing clients, collaborating with others, creating online presence, creating content, continuing to educate yourself. Great. So you're speaking to the pain, speaking to all of the busy stuff that they have going on in their day. Yeah, fingers in a lot of pies. What if you have the support of a team of marketers and digital creators? So team of marketers, but would that just be you? Or are you?
I have some people that I work with, so yeah. So I do have a team that I can work with. It depends on how much they want.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like this last half of it, a team of yes, digital creators, but something with like dedicated something or another to back you up, something. Because, especially if we're kind of going on this thread of, a lot of these people might have an aversion to marketing, or the like the typical marketing BS. So maybe it's like, a team of, I was going to say dedicated professionals, even that sounds too cheesy and like out of the box, but team something, or even just a support of a dedicated team and digital creators to back you up. Be something. And I could be getting nitpicky in here too, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah. It seems like that's a heart of a good idea. Like I've often joked that I would love to have one or more people around me who are really competent, who would just listen to my rambling mutterings about something that could be done and might be cool and take off with it. But I don't know how to express it much better than here.
I think there's something in there with the listener, the listening. Because yeah, I mean, this is their baby, right? Like these, you know, these entrepreneurs, these coaches, like this is their baby, it's their business, it's their livelihood. And so you know, handling that with care, listening to them and their needs could be something there.
What about like collaborators or co-creators? Something that makes it sound more like we're like working together.
Yeah. And definitely making sure you're still obviously presenting yourself as the expert, you know, and as the authority. Yeah. Expert collaborators. I don't know. I'm going to play around with.
Okay.
I want to share with you my no nonsense guide to getting your leads to becoming paying clients. Get rid of the colon.
Okay.
I don't think that it just because it feels like a full sentence. You know, when I say it. So to me, the colon seems a little out of place.
I also feel like I need to have like a name for what it is.
Yeah.
I just haven't come up with a name yet. So I feel like there's like some incongruencies with like labelings, and I want to make sure it's all labeled the same so people know they're getting this thing, not like, oh, I'm confused, I thought I was getting this. So guide versus video, you know, like I want to make sure it's all said the same way.
And the person reading this, do they necessarily have all the leads that they want? I mean, converting them paying clients is great, but what place do you expect them to be at in their marketing knowledge and skill?
So my target is like people who have maybe a larger following, who might be on like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, probably YouTube and Instagram mostly. And either they want to turn their followers into email subscribers, or they want to turn their email subscribers into clients. And so that's my whole idea, is like, yeah, and like if you need to get more leads, great, like we can help you with that. But typically hosting a free webinar, unless you're doing it with someone else who has a larger following, it's like harder to get people to bite onto that if they have no clue who you are, or there's less follow through. So if they know who you are, they've been following you for some time, but they haven't taken any action, then this is a great way to convert people into like that are following you, who maybe like see you passively, into either email subscribers or clients, or you know, just move them through the stages of awareness, from just like aware of you and aware of like what you're doing, into actually taking action.
Yeah. And so maybe, you know, if that's your target of people that do already have, you know, a growing audience, then maybe making that a little bit more clear up at the top when addressing your audience. Because that is a really good question from Samantha. And it was something that, you know, definitely didn't feel clear to me right away, that I was thinking, you know, this could be for someone brand new, or, you know, it just wasn't clear. So that's good. Oh, I had another thought and it just totally whoosh, went away. What it was. So what's like the overall content that you're delivering in this lead magnet?
So they would get a video with like the transcript underneath. So the video would be showing them essentially like giving them an overview of what a webinar funnel is. You know, people might be aware of it, but then also how you can essentially create a webinar funnel, the results that people that I've worked with have gotten, some like case studies essentially, and different case like use scenarios. And you know, kind of this whole like, there's a lot of high ticket coaching programs out there. That whole sentence is because essentially like a lot of the things I've learned is from my old coworker, now client, well, I guess former boss, now client boss, I don't know what she is, but either way, like she enrolled in lots of high ticket coaching programs, which are all claiming like, learn this one tip, like this one thing, like, and basically they're teaching you how to create a sales funnel. However, a lot of the time that just increased her workload a ton. She had to learn a whole new system. I was creating all of the things for her anyway. So I in turn learned how to create and develop all these systems as well. And a lot of those courses, it's just like they're, they cost a ton. You don't get anything done for you. And what I want to do is like essentially be like, you don't have to invest a lot. Like you can learn it if you want to, obviously. This is how it's done. But rather than learning all these skills yourself, I can help you set it up. It's going to be a lot less time, a lot less energy, and you don't have to take time away from your clients, from your services, from growing your business, from managing your team, whatever it is that you're already doing. And you don't have to like overwhelm yourself with work because I'm here to get it done for you.
So I have a couple of thoughts.
Yeah.
One is, as far as a title, you could play around with something like this and boom, you're not exactly that, but you've almost got your title right there. This guy is the number one tool to organically turn your leads into clients, or to turn your growing audience into paying clients, or something like that. And then I would say, turn this into steps, step by step. For them, again, it's going to be, pretty complicated. We're sure somebody, really feels that ambitious, they could try and do it, but you're going to lay out these steps, and then the ideal scenario is that they're going to want to hire you to help them accomplish that. But you could take this list and turn this in, you could even condense some of this and turn this into like a 5-step thing, that then you've got your sections of your lead magnet. And and then that can also then play into your title of like 5 steps to organically turn your growing audience into clients, or you turn your leads into paying clients. Boom, you've got that right there. And it's something that they can really gravitate on towards, like with the number, with the step by step.
And then saying like, this video will break down all of those steps and give you behind the scenes like training. Have you already like done your video, or that's still something? Good. Cool. Yeah, because then it gives them some nice structure to how you can create your video as well. And just again, like breaking it up into the different steps or the different sections, putting in how this could do some little behind the scenes, great. But it just adds some extra structure to your video.
I'm curious about something. If, say, you have a Facebook group, for example, and you have a lot of followers in that group, and sometimes if you try to get them to be, I've had this experience, if you try to directly get them to go to your mailing list, they go, well, I'm already here. I'm already listening to you. Why don't you tell me what you want to give me that you would tell me about that here? Why do I have to do this extra thing? So is it sometimes better to just go directly to a webinar to try to pull them further into the funnel than to try to get them to go to email first?
Go ahead.
I
was going to say, like, in this case, you're giving value for value, right? Like you're getting their email in exchange. They're getting a lot of free content, question, answer. They're learning something from you, and that's why it's an effective tool, because they have to opt in to get it, and then they're on your mailing list. But you've already built value. Typically you give them a recording if they can't make it, and then you're starting to build like awareness, trust, and also value with them, so that they like, oh great, like if I'm on the mailing list, maybe I'll get something else of value that like I'm not going to see in other places. So,
but most people don't think of it like that. They go, if you want to offer me this free value and I'm already talking with you, why don't you just give it to me? Why do I have to maybe get content in a form I consider old-fashioned? Like a lot of younger people, they don't particularly like email. I mean, it's still a fact of life, but they don't like it so much.
You'd be surprised. Email is still considered like one of the #1 tools for directly reaching an audience, and especially for the creator, for the business owner. That list, when you have the email list, you own that list. Like, as far as, there's things like when you got social media lists, these different things, these areas that's like owned by Facebook, owned by these other things that can get
Yeah.
taken away from you. But there's actually, you'd be surprised how even the younger generation does still engage with email more than you'd expect. I mean, it's not a catch-all, it's not everything, but it is still one of the most effective marketing tools. And I mean, if I was specifically trying to target like teenagers or people in their early 20s, then I'd have to go explore things like the TikTok world and all that stuff that I don't want to do. But so that's kind of a whole different conversation. But overall, email marketing is still considered like the top strategy. And then as far as oh, why not just offer it for free? Well, then you're potentially losing out on being able to talk to these people again afterwards. So I've also seen, what I've also seen though, is I've seen people offer, yes, you have to give me this email address to opt in, but I'm not going to make you go to your email to get the thing, where they give the email address and then they're automatically redirected to a landing page that they just have the free thing right then and there. But as the other side, as the business owner, you're losing so much opportunity by not getting that email address. There was another, in your question earlier, Samantha, and maybe it was like even an unsaid question that I heard, and since maybe I'm making stuff up, but since I heard it, I'm going to address it. And I was thinking about for clients like this who maybe already have an email list that they've been growing, but they want to find a way to turn those people more into paying clients. That would be an example where you would just deliver the free thing to your email list, and you wouldn't make them re-opt in again, re-put stuff in. Like with email marketing tools, you can do things where when people click a certain link, then they get a tag added to their profile. So you can still identify them later that they got the thing that you gave them. But, for someone who's already on my email list, I wouldn't make them opt in again. That can be really annoying to do. So, kind of continue on. So do we want to go down into the rest? So, okay, you should watch this training video if you are a busy entrepreneur looking for your audience email list. An abundance mindset individual. Lovely. Research you want more clients for. I feel like this might be a little redundant.
Yeah.
Business and the service industry. So something you could probably tighten this list up a little bit and get to just get to the meat. And if you're going to do something like ready to take action, I'd put that down at the bottom. It's like the last thing.
Yes.
This is relevant for sure. I juggling a million ideas at once needs support and systems. Now that is language that's going to speak to your people, like that they feel like this is a juggling act. Like, that's nice creative language. Juggling a million ideas at once and needs support. Like, we all know content creators in our our audiences and communities and the freedom community. That's exactly what they're doing. They're juggling so many ideas at once and they do not know how to handle it all and they need support. So great language there.
This is no cost and no commitment. Well, what are you giving them?
Huh?
That's a video.
Video, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They have no commitment. I don't want them to like shy away from like, oh, I'm gonna have to like do this thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but are you offering a free consultation or what is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like at the end of the video or like in the second page, it will be like, basically like fill out an application to talk about this. if you're interested. But there's no commitment. Like anyone who watches the video isn't going to be forced to take a sales call with me, or you know what I mean. So maybe no commitment would could be reworded, but there's no like,
Yeah, well, and this might not even be necessary.
yeah.
It might not even be necessary copy. You know, it could be, and half the time, I don't know, Agnieszka would say this too, she is here, like half the time when I'm editing copy, I'm cutting like 50%. You know, sometimes it is that drastic, but like 50% of that first draft of what I'm getting to really tighten things up, make it just stronger, more punchy, more to the point. So even like in this list, it's like tighten it up, get it down to, you know, 4 or 5, you know, solid bullet points that are just really strong and hit to the point. And then I think this is kind of like an implied, like this, you know, that there's not a price tag on this, and you know, they just, you know, just give the email address. But I don't think it's necessary to say it.
Well, and you've already said it up above, because you said just up
Right.
above, you said, I'm not promising you anything outlandish in that other segment you just went past. But to me, that's that kind of submissive language that you don't necessarily want to use.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like, you know, you're not in control and that you're not the expert. So
I would also, oh, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say that this is one of those areas where you can explain kind of how ethical marketing works, where we offer value to gain trust, and then by delivering value, you start to move towards more value. And that's the key to ethical marketing, and this is the process. This is the start of that process.
Yeah. And, you know, with an opt-in, you know, again, like I said, you can definitely like cut some of the stuff to tighten things up a little bit. But, you know, the opt-in doesn't have to be a full length landing page, you know, just like, and if you're going to have a good amount of content like this, have like, when you build it, have like the button to opt in, like scattered throughout the page, so that at any point they can just go ahead and do it. You're pretty good with landing pages, you know, that stuff. I wanted to bring up, so I read this, you know, get exclusive access to Art of Kind training video and learn how to maximize your time. Well, at this point, it's the first time that we've seen Art of Kind. And so we don't know what that is yet. I would say, so I like this, you know, I want to show you what done right looks like, boom, period. Like, and take something like this and put it down below where you're explaining what Art of Kind is. Because when I first read that, I said, wait, what is this? Kind, is that, you know, am I reading that right? And so it threw me off because I wasn't sure, there was no introduction yet and I didn't know what it was. So that would be something. I think this is a strong point. I would also be careful with starting too many sentences with I and me.
Yeah.
That's another one to be careful of. Yeah. Like, even if you just change this to like nothing outlandish here.
Nothing outlandish.
Or what,
Yeah.
what I'm giving you, what you're getting is an ethical marketing tool proven to work. And I've seen it work with countless clients. So again, we're starting to give it back onto the reader.
What you're getting is an ethical marketing tool proven to work.
It's sort of slightly nails on the chalkboard that you're talking as much as you are about other people promising the moon and how outlandish they are and all that stuff, instead of talking more about the great value you're bringing to these people.
Well,
and it sort of feels a little bit like, these people promise you great results. I don't necessarily promise you great results, but you don't want to go to.
Right. I can see that.
Well, and just an overall, because like Elise, I know you're getting more and more skilled with like long form landing pages and things like that. And an opt-in doesn't have to be quite so complicated. So you don't have to use like the full, formulas and layouts for like a long form landing page as you would for something like an opt-in. So that's why, I'd encourage, and don't get rid of all the copy because you could use it elsewhere. It's still like really valuable stuff, but thinking about like, okay, what do they just really need to know now just to watch my video, just to get intrigued? And they've already done something to get to the opt-in page, like whether it's an ad or something like that. They had to get to the opt-in somewhere. Think about do you know where the opt-in is going to live?
I'm going to do advertising.
Perfect. So, take some of this content that, you could use more in some different ad copy and talking, maybe that's speaking a little bit more to some of the problem language, some of that stuff to like hook them in. And then the opt-in is a little bit more punchy, a little bit more just specific to delivery.
Okay.
And I'm unclear. Something is making me lose track of whether you're teaching them, offering them things to put in their toolbox, new things that they need to do something with, and to what degree you're offering to do it right for them. It doesn't feel clear which is which, because I think there's a mixture of both.
And when they opt in, they, give their email address, and then, whether they get redirected or delivered an email, probably maybe both, then they're probably going to land on, you'll have the video probably housed on a landing page, right? That they get to watch. So then below, that's a good opportunity to explain a little bit more about Art of Kind, who you are. The opt-in is more focused specifically on the deliverable and less so about, giving education on who you are yet. First, you got to rope them in. And then once they start watching your video, they're going to get a lot more interested in you and what you're offering. And then, maybe below the video or in a follow-up, something like that, get a little bit more into you and what you're offering and your background. But first, it's like, and I can hear Agnieszka's voice in my head screaming, nobody's going to care about you until they see what you can do for them. So that's what we want to start with first, is like what you're, offering, which you've done on this page. But as far as the kind of funnel, just sticking with the deliverable for the opt-in mostly and getting them hooked into that, then they're going to see how you can help them. Then you can educate them a little bit more about who you are and your background and what you're offering. That makes sense?
Maybe it needs to say further up how to do marketing in a way that doesn't suck, doesn't feel slimy, and doesn't spend a lot of your money and time.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, FAQ, look at that.
I feel like FAQs, that's what I always scroll to first. So I'm catering to people like me with that.
Yeah. Yeah, FAQ is not necessarily a bad thing. That could definitely be possible. I just, I even explore some different like opt-in templates and stuff, and just kind of see like how much real estate that you might want to work with, and then you can kind of be like discerning on what kind of stuff that you want to focus on at this part of the funnel. This is great stuff though, Elise. Like, you've got a good offer here. More thoughts, comments, things bubbling up out there? Well, is there, because I'm not going to get super nitpicky on like each and every line. I think we've done a good job on like the overall structure. I think there's definitely some area, as far as, I think the big places to focus on are like, yes, getting your title locked in, getting a really nice title. And when I'm creating titles or headlines, I will go through and I will brainstorm at least like 15 to 20, to be honest, the bare minimum 10, to just like, brainstorming is quantity over quality. And so just pumping out different ideas and just kind of finding the gold from there. And Elise, you're enrolled in my copywriting course. In the lead magnet module, under the practice exercise, there's a download that you can get on its timeless cut and paste formulas for it as it's a free Sabri Subri resource that I included just as an extra thing in there. But he calls an HVCO a high value content offer, aka a lead magnet. But that's a resource, has like these timeless cut and paste formulas that can kind of help just to bubble some more ideas. Cool.
Thank you, guys.
You're so welcome. Thank you for bringing this. What's that?
I said, and Samantha, thank you for all the feedback. It's helpful.
Sure.
Awesome. Thanks for bringing that. That was a really good exercise for us all to go through. Michael or Otto, would you like us to take a look at whatever low priority thing you brought? No, we still got 30 more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I can start. I think mine is pretty quick. I'm just curious to hear your view on how good of a job you think that GTP did with the copy. So
Sure.
I will just share my screen.
Yeah, you can share your screen. Perfect.
Just need to figure which window it is. This one. This is actually the forum, so this can be found from the AI section. And I just put here like what my prompt was initially. And if someone's interested, you can read it from the forum. But I was kind of explaining what I think the problem is, what is the challenge, what I'm trying to do. And then I was kind of going back and forth, and then we got to define like what is the freedom strategy. And then we went and defined messaging pillars for freedom. And then based on this information, then I finally told him, okay, well now you know what we're aiming for, and now give me the website copy for this thing. And then then it gave me this one, which to me sounded a lot like AUTONOMY landing page or something. Yeah.
And so really quick though, before we kind of get into the specifics of that, this is for your vision?
This is just for fun.
Oh, just for fun. I was just wondering what the goal of this specifically would be.
It's just, curious to see how it works and what it comes up with. But I can see myself possibly using portion of this for my own business. But I haven't really thought of this angle. Was just like, I'm trying to define the challenge as I see it as a freedom community. This is kind of like this global thing. And what would be the strategy that people in general should follow? And then if we would kind of dumb it down, okay, like we have one website where we try to explain and get people the attention, then what would it be? And this is the result.
You know, this almost looks like something interesting to have some interactive videos on where people can give ideas about different sections of stuff. And I wonder why you said really early. I mean, you went past things really fast, but you said really early something to the nature of no one wants to listen to me. That seems very disempowering. Why would you even put that in?
Where was that?
It was near the top.
Well, I don't even remember what I wrote in here more, but
yeah, it sort of jumped out at me. But
it's kind of, I was kind of pretending that this is a company and we have this problem. We need to reach these people, and they're not listening because they're turned off by the message, which is very, I mean, people get turned off by the message of freedom. So I was kind of
want to hear what
pretending,
I have to say. That sort of puts you behind the 8 ball, right?
But they don't. because most people
Like
know when I'm
harsh
using it.
and empowering message. Why is it harsh? I'm sort of confused what you're referring to.
Yes, well, this is my opinion, of course, and take on it. But if I go to most content that is out there, it's kind of a message that no one really wants to hear. Like it's very off-putting. What typically is talk about, like there's this big problem, it's a problem. Like, people are usually highlighting that there's this great problem. You need to be aware. There's conspiracy. They are trying to take over the world. They're trying to kill us all.
Okay, I get
So
you.
that's very off-putting.
Yeah, they come at it from more of a dystopian point of view than the potential positives of some of these things, right?
Yeah. So in this case, like the voice I is kind of me trying to position like I'm the kind of the high mind of the freedom people. What I'm thinking is generally put out there. So I'm trying to write from that perspective. And so I'm not talking about myself or any of my own project or anything. This is, yeah, maybe it's gonna be weird to read, but yeah, I didn't want to spell it out specifically what I want from the ChatGPT because I was thinking it will get confused. So I just wanted to like boil it down to like, this is a company, we have a mission, we want to get more people to go through our program, which was of course to take the red pill and figure out what's really going on and improve your own life. It's a
And
long program to take.
And it's interesting because, how you kind of just said, like, kind of this imaginary thing. And so, weren't really specific. And what it spit out was very vague. As much as, yes, it's talking about, empowerment and stuff like that. But I was like reading, I was like, but what actually is this? What actually would this be? It's some nice language, like unlock your potential and, and that, but it didn't tell me at all what this is, what I'd actually be
Right.
signing up for. But it makes sense where, you kind of put in a little bit more, some vagueness maybe in what you're putting in. There wasn't, as much specificity in there. And so it makes
Yes.
came out.
Yes, all of that was missing. Like, what is it actually about? I never told it what it's about.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
that's why I guess it looks a bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
But just the keywords is like, well, I guess it reflects in what I was typing there. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, to me, it's just say this is autonomy, like unlock your potential and
Mm-hmm.
self-improvement related things. But yeah, I was just curious, like, does this look like this was written by AI, or what are your thoughts on the copy? Like, other than that, it's not very specific on what the heck is it.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because in some ways, no. In some ways it doesn't, but in other ways, these are so much phrases and things that I've seen a lot out there on the internet. So you can see where the AI tool has like grabbed a lot of this stuff to use. So in some ways it does sound like real, but in other ways it is very like it's taken from a lot of different things out there. And what are other thoughts? And are people's thoughts?
I also agree that it seems AI just because of the genericness and almost like too many big words. I feel like AI likes to use these big words that are really vague, that like don't have much life to them, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's like the big buzzwords.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was, similar, Richard mentioned, what's that guy's name? Andrew, the kind of new Joe Rogan. It's kind of a little edgy, kind of male centric. But he's like Romanian. In any case, I went and I looked at his stuff, and it's almost like an advertisement for autonomy, because it's so like the words are almost very similar, like, empower yourself and do all this kind of stuff. And so to some degree, that's, to me, it's like, this is one of those things where, we've got to demonstrate like how we are different, because otherwise we all sound the same. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of what the you know, what's going on, like when you look at like the freedom community and like, you know, when they're trying to deliver something that's valuable to people, and then you see like all these other websites that or YouTube channels and stuff that kind of emulate that, and they talk about it and they just kind of water it down until it's like, you know, nothing, and then nobody knows anything, and they're just like, ah, whatever, yeah, that's just conspiracy stuff, you know. So like they take something that's valuable and they just water it down, and I think that's kind of one of the things that that AI is probably designed to do, you know, is to pull out that stuff that's unique and valuable and mesh it into everything else.
Yeah. Because even though, you know, and I know that this was like, you know, an AI, you know, exercise, and we understand that and why it's vague. But if I was just looking at this, like I was looking at, you know, just a published website out there, I'd be like, all right, these are nice fancy words, but what are you actually offering me? How? What are you, you know, okay, you know, equipping me with the tools to make informed decisions that lead me to a more fulfilling life. Great words, but what does that actually mean? Where's the specificity? Where, you know, even like I said, like I can recognize a lot of these phrases that are even on our own like autonomy website, but the difference is that on our autonomy website it's coupled with specificity, and coupled with, you know, exactly specificity on how, why, what, all those questions, whereas this is just the vagueness without the specificity. So it's like it's telling you a lot without telling you anything at all.
On the other hand, when, you know, it's sort of saying, well, it sounds like you're describing a problem, and here's what the problem seems to be. And those first two paragraphs under freedom strategy actually aren't bad. They sort of nail it. I mean, a lot of problems in the freedom community generally is it's either too top heavy, intellect only, and doesn't necessarily reach that many people where they live, or it's too full of memes. So nailing that's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and I almost want to go in and give you the prompt to give it the specificity. Like, hey, by the way, I didn't tell you what this is. Let's say what this is like an online course you take to learn these skills. Now rewrite this copy, be specific that they're enrolling on this, let's say 3-month course and like autonomy, and then see what happens.
Does the AI get around to saying how you might, well, obviously, if you want like a 2 to 10 year commitment, there has to be something that feels like ongoing community or a strong payoff where the people are enjoying the process, or they're just not going to do it right. Does it get to saying things like that? I don't see it so far.
Or things like what?
There has to be a sense of community, something that brings joy in the ongoing process if you expect people to do a 2 to 10 year commitment to anything.
Yeah, I think it was in the strategy, community building and participation. It's one of the 3 pillars. What to do.
Yeah, I see.
It's funny because I need a community building, and I didn't specifically, I don't think I specifically said anything about building a community, but it kind of gave me this. But yeah, that's basically all I had. Maybe I will give it on.
Oh, thanks for bringing that, Otto.
Michael.
Yeah, Michael, and we have 15 minutes. What did you bring?
All right, well, this is my second draft of a email that you know, is essentially coming from our media relations department to liberty-minded content providers. So this was AI generated, and then we added some other stuff in it. I ran it past Stephanie, And this is, you know, she said, "Yeah, this sounds good," but we've since kind of moved on because we're thinking of a presentation that's along the line of a video kind of letter almost, where we can send an email, but then we can send the video as kind of a pitch or plea, with the idea of really starting a vision. But this is kind of describing the vision of what the media relations department is trying to deliver to people out there that are in the liberty movement and are trying to provide content.
So with the opening on this, and you know, I'm going to move past the dear liberty-minded content provider, because I would assume you're going to insert who you're sending that to,
Right.
specifically. You know, so, you know, I'm writing to introduce you to new exciting opportunity. Autonomy Unlimited's marketing media relations department understands the difficulties that liberty-minded content providers and influencers encounter. What I'm wondering is if it might be more effective to open with a hook that describes one or two of those top difficulties that they're challenging, to hook them in initially, and then, you know, introduce them to this new and exciting opportunity.
Yeah, that sounds good. You know, some of the things that I added, because that is right out of the, you know, I'm using Perplexity as my AI tool, but but then the second piece is the one that I added, which was essentially adding more offers. You know, that you know, we're not just necessarily like an agency that are trying to help them get bookings and all that kind of stuff and providing them with, you know, content ideas, but also helping them market their stuff and all that other good stuff. And that's where, you know, like Elise's offer might be another, you know, tab in this. But I'm trying to make it short and sweet, trying to hit on the things that maybe those that would be the things that appeal to them the most.
Yeah.
And so I don't think this is it's very long at all. I guess it's longer than I thought, but
Yeah, it's definitely like there, you know, definitely some things that you know, that you could axe out of here. Maybe simplify some of the more complex sentences.
yeah. And then at the bottom here is, you know, we just did the center stage the other day with you know, essentially media relations as a feature. We had 3 guests that were all in different, you know, different genres, and essentially they're, you know, like this is our initial kind of like weekly offer is, hey, we've got these 3 talents. Would you be interested in, you know, these particular, you know, we got Agnieszka with the sovereign body language. We got Dave with the, you know, the artist stuff. And then we got Kayla with her new poetry book.
Would it
And-
make sense to divide that paragraph with space in between the different ones to make them stand out more?
Definitely. With those 3 other things you were just mentioning, where does that fit into this?
Well, they're you know, they're obviously always looking for, you know, booking guests and content ideas as far as, you know, the content that they produce. This is like our chance to basically brief them on, you know, new clients that we have that have particular topic areas that they cover that might be of interest to them.
Well, and who, I should have asked this at the beginning. So who specifically is this going to be sent to? Is this going to be sent to people that you're already, creators you're already working with in the media relations department, or brand new people?
That's just an example, but yeah, I don't know if you saw in the chat from the center stage meeting we had the other day, then Dave gave us a list of you know, like a whole bunch of freedom content providers that this would go to.
Yeah. So my point is that if this is first touch, when it's first touch, be really selective of what you're offering, what you're giving, because really this is just trying to get the conversation started, right? And so
Yeah.
I'd be hesitant of putting too much of some of these other things in there when like kind of getting to like the rule of one. What is that number one goal that you want with this email? And you know,
Yeah.
so what do you want them to do?
Yeah.
More than likely, yeah, schedule an interview with us and just have them talk about what their needs are.
Beautiful. So, you know, that you can tease out like, you know, on this call, like it can share with you some of like these other opportunities, some of the ideas that we have. You know, you could tease a little bit of that, but not overwhelm too much in the first touch email. We're just thinking about that one goal of just enticing them enough, you know, empathizing with the challenges that they're going through and wanting to grow their audience and, you know, those kinds of issues, but just keeping it really focused on what you want them to do next.
Okay.
I would remove that paragraph with the 3 example people because it's like a subset of this very general good offer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a specialized subset and it sort of detracts from the general good offer a little bit.
You think maybe a survey would be better where we just say like, here's like 5 things that we provide. Which of those is the most important to you?
Later.
Again, though, what do you ultimately want them to do? If you want them to get on a call, get a conversation, you know, get that, then focus on that. And then maybe in that call is an opportunity to ask some of those questions. You know, I would say I would start with that. If maybe, you know, you're sending out a whole bunch of these and you're not getting any traction, maybe that's, you know, a time to rethink your strategy. But I would focus more on like really straight and to the point and just focusing on what you want them to do next.
Okay.
Yeah, my experience as email reader whose email has been leaked and I'm getting tons of spam, and I would imagine that content creators also get tons of email spam if they have like a semi-public email out there. So when I get an email like this, I will immediately know that it's spam and I delete it, not even reading the first sentence. And I know it because no one would send me this lengthy email if it's not copy pasted to like hundreds and hundreds of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what the better spammers do that they just make very short email, and then like a week later, then they reply to it like hey, you did get back to me, blah blah blah, and then in that email they provide more context and more information. So maybe you can try something like that. So you get best of both worlds.
And personalizing. So in your opening, you know, if you're, you know, for whichever content creator that you're putting out, like do some research on them so that in that beginning, like they know you're speaking directly to them, that they don't think they're just getting a generic, you know, oh, like 20 other people have gotten this exact same email. This is, you know, a business email. Make it like you really, you know who you're talking to, and then they feel seen, they feel heard. They're going to feel more inclined to want to keep reading.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, the best ones I have like considered to reply are like really like straightforward. Like I'm really thinking like they actually wrote it. Like they are not nicely. I don't know. I mean, they're somehow raw. Like you would send a friend email to a friend.
Yes.
And it's just like a sentence or two, and like, hey, let me know what you think. Reply or whatever. I don't know exactly what they say, but yeah, that's the feeling I get. Like they have a few keywords, like they know the company name, they know my name, and so on.
And that's a great point, Otto, about just like, you know, like you're talking to a friend. And this is why I encourage people when they're writing email to not use perfect grammar, to not, you know, that like if it's any place that's the most forgiving on things like typos, poor grammar, it's email. And it actually can work in your favor. Not obviously not going overboard to where they think, okay, this person's incompetent. But, you know, finding a balance in there of speaking like a human, speaking like a real person. And that's where, you know, I think AI and email will have the hardest time of really meshing and being really, really effective, because it's not as, it doesn't have so much of that human element and just that realness to it. And that's, the best emails to read, especially if they're coming from a business, are ones that actually feel like they were written by a real person and written to you.
Yeah. And if there are content creators, and I don't know how many there are on the list that need to be sent the email, but the best tactic would be to actually watch some recent video from them, and then in the email you reference that video, like, hey, I saw that you published this video and I liked it, and then if you follow up with get like your offer. But that makes it clear that you brought this email to them individually yourself with your own keyboard, and you know them and their content, and they are much more likely to reply.
Yeah, I was thinking, like picking out 10 and focusing on them, and then based on what responses we get, and obviously more approachable people that are probably easier to connect with, and then see what kind of connections we can make, and then possibly build from there.
So if that's the case, then you don't even have to you can just create the first draft and really put their names and company, like really personalize it, because 10 emails is not bad to do. You can do copy paste the body and then adjust the heading as to who it's going to, and maybe you even have personal connections to some of them, so then it makes it for a much smoother entry.
Well, we've been in Autonomy Unlimited, we've been talking about kind of giving specials on particular things, landing page specials and stuff like that. And so like creating that for the media relations department too, like we have like a weekly special, or so that we can talk about specific areas and specific clients and so forth, and just keep the dialogue going.
And I love that though, of like, kind of like what Otto said, of opening up with like, talking, I saw your video on this topic and really loved it. And then they're like, oh, okay, this person's actually speaking to me and knows who I am. Okay, now I'm more inclined to keep reading. And to Daphne's point, then you can have the middle section can be more copy and paste and, generic, but got to hook them in first before they'll want to read it.
I may have misconstrued something, but I thought that this was more of a targeted email, that you have a list of likely candidates you want to send this to. It may make more sense.
We had a big list that Dave came up with.
Well, yeah, there seems to be two issues with that. I mean, I think it would be challenging to only put people on the list that would likely be interested and are not already good at stuff on Autonomy Unlimited could help with, would be one challenge. And also you'll miss people. It might be better to have something that's a little differently tuned. That's a landing page that you put out on general places where more liberty-minded people are likely to have content, say a Rumble and other things. And maybe have a short video if it's a Rumble.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the difference between like going for like a wider net versus the more targeted direct approach with the individual email. So, I mean, like covering both strategies would definitely, again, cast that wider net.
And, why not put it out to all Autonomy mailing list people? If you create liberty-minded content, perhaps we can help you type thing.
Well, there is another angle to this, and that's the the Autonomy graduate side, and that is kind of helping them put their message out and get like a media relations campaign together for them on their particular expertise and niche. That's creating their one page, their press kit, and all this other stuff. But that's another angle that that we're definitely interested in doing.
Well, guys, we are at time, and I just felt my tummy rumble. It's my lunchtime. Any final thoughts, key takeaways, whatever you got from today before we wrap up?
As usual, it's always an exciting, exceptional experience. We always learn something new. So I'm thrilled to always be a part of the Copywriting Clinic.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was really fruitful. Thank you so much. And I started looking at the resources you sent, and I'll be diving further into that. And I'm looking forward to improving content and copy delivery. So thank you so much for everything.
And anybody else on the call, if you want some additional resources, reach out to me directly on the forum, and I'm happy to send you some direct stuff.
And next time I promise to bring some of my own copy, because I want to put out a short PDF of things people could do for privacy and security, and the landing page for that, or the lead magnet.
Awesome.
Yeah, that would be a good call for me to finally make some copy about my project.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. Well,
Thank you guys. I got a lot out of today. I appreciate all the feedback and just being there.
Awesome. I'm really glad you came. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, wonderful night. We got autonomy tonight. And so, yeah, live it up. Talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.